The silence in the meeting room felt heavy. Ambassador Kate Sullivan sat at the metal table, her hands folded in front of her. Across from her, the Zephyrian War Marshal Vexthak towered over his chair. His green scales caught the light from the ceiling panels. His yellow eyes stared at her with open disgust. Kate had traveled 3 months to reach this moment. The human diplomatic ship HSS Meridian had crossed dangerous space to get here. Behind her stood Captain John Blake and 2 other human officers. They wore their dress uniforms but no weapons. The Zephyrians had demanded this. War Marshal Kate began, her voice steady. I speak for all of humanity today. We come to you in peace, seeking an end to this conflict. Vexathak's mouth opened, showing rows of sharp teeth. Peace! His voice came out as a hiss. You mammals speak of peace while your colonies poison our rightful territories. Kate kept her face calm. She had practiced this moment 1,000 times. We offer you a choice today. Stop your attacks on human worlds. Withdraw your forces from our colonies. In return, humanity will share our medical technology and open trade routes between our peoples. The other Zephyrians in the room started laughing. The sound was like metal scraping against stone. War Marshal Vexthak stood up. His full height reached nearly 8 feet. His claws clicked against the table surface. You think we need anything from you? Vexthak walked around the table slowly. We have conquered 47 worlds. We have destroyed species older than yours. What could weak mammals possibly offer us? Captain Blake stepped forward. Ambassador, perhaps we should explain our defensive capabilities. Kate raised her hand. No, John. They need to understand what we're offering freely. She looked back at Vexthak. Our medical technology could extend Zephyrian life by hundreds of years. Our agricultural methods could feed your growing population. We're offering partnership. Partnership? Vexathak stopped behind Kate's chair. The strong do not partner with the weak. They consume them. Kate pulled out a small device from her jacket. The Zephyrian guards tensed, but she moved slowly. This contains the terms of our offer. 3 months to consider. Complete withdrawal from human space. Reparations for the colonies you destroyed. In exchange, we share technology that could transform your civilization. Vexathak took the device and crushed it in his claws. The metal pieces fell to the floor. Here are our terms, human. Complete surrender. Your species will serve as workers on our worlds. Your children will grow up as our slaves. Your technology will belong to us. That's not acceptable, Kate said firmly. Then, you will die with your worlds. Vexthak's claws extended further. We will burn every human colony. We will hunt down every ship. When we finish, no one will remember your species ever existed. Kate stood up slowly. Captain Blake and the other officers moved closer to her. You're making a mistake, War Marshal. Humanity has existed for thousands of years. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that would have destroyed weaker species. We're offering you peace because we prefer it. Don't mistake our preference for inability. Threats from a mammal? Vexthak laughed again. Your largest ships carry barely 1,000 crew members. Our smallest battle cruisers hold 5,000 warriors. You have perhaps 200 worlds. We control over 300. The mathematics are simple. Kate reached into her other pocket and pulled out a recording device. Then let the record show that humanity offered peace to the Zephyrian Empire on this date. We offered friendship, trade, and mutual prosperity. Record this instead. Vexthak's claw shot out faster than human eyes could follow. It pierced Kate's chest, lifting her off the ground. Her blood dripped onto the metal floor. This is what happens to mammals who threaten the Zephyrian Empire. Captain Blake shouted and moved toward them, but Zephyrian guards blocked his path. Kate looked at him, her life fading quickly. John, she whispered, tell them we tried. Vexthak threw her body across the room. Take this message to your people. Human captain, surrender now, or watch them all die like this one. You have 1 week to broadcast your submission across your pathetic empire. The guards pushed the surviving humans toward the door. Captain Blake looked back at Kate's body last time. We offered you peace, he said quietly. You chose war. War? Vexthak wiped Kate's blood from his claws. This won't be war, mammal. This will be extermination. Captain Blake and his officers were escorted to their shuttle. The Zephyrian guards watched them board and launch. As soon as they cleared the docking bay, Blake activated the ship's communication system. This is Captain Blake to all human vessels in the area. Ambassador Sullivan is dead. The Zephyrians have rejected all peace terms. Transmit this message to Earth Command immediately. He paused, looking at the recording device Kate had given him before the meeting. It had captured everything. Tell them the Zephyrians chose war. Tell them to activate Protocol 7. The shuttle jumped to hyperspace, carrying the news that would change everything. Behind them, the Zephyrian fleet prepared for what they believed would be a simple conquest. They had no idea what they had just awakened. The emergency meeting room beneath the White House filled with the most powerful people in human space. President Linda Carter sat at the head of the long table. Her face showed no emotion as the recording played on the main screen. Ambassador, Kate Sullivan's death played out in perfect detail. Every person in the room watched their friend and colleague die at alien claws. Admiral Rick Thompson spoke first when the recording ended. Madam President, our fleets are ready. We've been waiting for this moment for 30 years. Dr. Henry Ford adjusted his glasses and opened a thick folder. The research division has completed all preparations. Our new technologies are ready for deployment. President Carter looked around the room. These men and women had spent decades preparing for this day. They had hoped it would never come, but they had never stopped getting ready. How long until we can begin operations? 12 hours, Admiral Thompson replied. Our advanced scouts reported the Zephyrian fleet movements an hour ago. They're massing for a major attack on our outer colonies. General Paul Adams leaned forward. Our colonial militias received the activation codes 20 minutes ago. Every settlement, every mining station, every research outpost is transforming as we speak. President Carter pressed a button on her desk. The room's windows darkened and new screens appeared on the walls. They showed dozens of human worlds across space. Show them what they're really facing. On New Pittsburgh, factory supervisor Mary Johnson stood in the middle of what had been a cargo ship construction facility that morning. Now, automated systems were building sleek warships. The production line moved faster than any alien technology could match. Workers in protective suits guided materials that seemed to form into hull sections by themselves. Construction time. For a destroyer? Mary asked her assistant. 11 hours? 47 minutes, came the reply. Cruisers take 18 hours. Battleships take 36 hours. Mary nodded. Triple the production rate. We have orders for 5,000 ships. The scene shifted to the asteroid belt mining stations. What the galaxy saw as simple ore extraction operations revealed their true purpose. Massive weapons emerged from hollowed-out asteroids. Defensive platforms that had been disguised as mining equipment powered up for the first time in decades. On the agricultural world of New Kansas, farmer Bill Wright watched as his wheat fields split open. Beneath the crops, hidden hangars released. Fighter squadrons. The planes rose into the sky in perfect formation. Their engines made no sound, and their hulls seemed to bend light around them. Back in the meeting room, Dr. Ford activated another display. The quantum displacement drive is operational on all first-line ships. We can now move our fleets through folded space. No more waiting weeks for hyperspace travel. Weapon systems? President Carter asked. Phase torpedoes are loaded on all vessels. They ignore shields and detonate inside enemy hulls. Our new adaptive armor grows stronger under fire. The more they shoot us, the harder we become to damage. Admiral Thompson stood up. Madam President, there's something else. Our intelligence reports suggest the Zephyrians believe they're fighting, the same humans they met 50 years ago. They have no idea how much we've advanced. Good, President Carter said coldly. Let them keep thinking that. On the mining world of New Texas, Foreman Joe Clark supervised the emergence of the planet's true defenses. What looked like simple mining equipment transformed into massive railguns. Power cores that had been labeled as ore processors revealed themselves as planet-scale defensive systems. Target acquisition? Joe asked his technical team. We can hit ships up to 4 light minutes away, came the answer. Reload time is 6 seconds per gun. Joe smiled grimly. The Zephyrians won't know what hit them. The president turned to General Adams. Ground forces? Every human colony has been preparing for this day. Our farmers and miners are actually trained soldiers. Our research stations are military command centers. The Zephyrians think they're attacking civilians. They're about to face the most prepared military force in galactic history. Dr. Ford activated one more screen. This is the crown jewel of our research, the Hammer Protocol. The display showed a weapon system unlike anything seen before. It looked like a combination of technology and something else entirely. Energy patterns flowed through crystalline structures in ways that seemed impossible. What does it do? President Carter asked. It converts matter directly into energy at the quantum level. One shot can destroy a moon. We have 3 of them. Admiral. Thompson checked his watch. Madam President, the Zephyrian advance fleet will reach our outer colonies in 6 hours. They expect to find frightened civilians running for their lives. Instead, they'll find us waiting for them. President Carter stood up. Gentlemen, ladies, humanity has been peaceful for generations because we chose to be. We offered the Zephyrians friendship because we believed in the possibility of a better galaxy. She looked at each person in the room. They murdered our ambassador. They chose extermination over cooperation. They want war. President Carter's voice grew harder. Give them war. Show them what happens when you threaten the human race. Show them what we've been capable of all along. Admiral Thompson saluted. It will be our pleasure, Madam President. As the meeting ended, messages flew across human space at faster than light speeds. On every world, in every station, the same transformation was taking place. The peaceful, human civilization that aliens had known for decades was revealing its true face. Humanity had been sleeping. Now they were awake, and they were very, very angry. The Zephyrian invasion fleet was magnificent in its scale. 2,000 ships moved through space in perfect formation. War Marshal Vexthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the display screens show human space ahead. His yellow eyes gleamed with anticipation. How many human ships defend the outer colonies? He asked his intelligence officer. Scans show approximately 60 vessels, War Marshal. Small escort ships and a few outdated cruisers. They're trying to evacuate. Civilians from the surface. Vexthak's mouth opened in what passed for a smile among his species. 60 ships against 2,000. The mammals will die quickly. 3 hours later, the Zephyrian fleet reached the Kepler defense line. Here, the humans had chosen to make their stand. Commander Lisa White stood on the bridge of the human command ship, watching enemy vessels fill her screens. Her crew moved with calm efficiency around her. Enemy count? She asked. 2,014 ships, Commander, mostly battle cruisers and destroyers. 47 dreadnoughts in the main formation. Our forces? 51 ships, Commander. Lisa nodded. The odds looked impossible from the Zephyrian perspective. They had no idea what was about to happen. All ships, prepare for engagement. Load phase torpedoes. Activate adaptive armor systems. On the Zephyrian flagship, War Marshal Vexthak watched the human ships arrange themselves in a simple defensive line. They don't even try to run. Mammals are stupid creatures. Shall we demand surrender first, War Marshal? No. Kill them all. Let this be a lesson to other humans. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams and missiles filled the space between the two forces. The attack was overwhelming, designed to destroy the human ships in the first volley. The energy beams struck the human vessels and seemed to disappear. The missiles exploded harmlessly against hulls that grew visibly stronger with each impact. Not a single human ship took damage. "What is this?" Vexthak roared. "Why aren't they dying?" Commander Lisa White activated her communication system. "All ships, return fire. Show them what real weapons look like." The human ships fired their phase torpedoes. The weapons passed through Zephyrian shields like they didn't exist. They passed through armor plating the same way. Deep inside the enemy ships, the torpedoes detonated. The results were devastating. 50 Zephyrian ships exploded in the first. 10 seconds. The aliens had never seen weapons that could ignore their defenses completely. "Impossible!" Vexthak shouted. "Our shields are the best in the galaxy!" His science officer was studying the readings frantically. "War Marshal, their weapons exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Our shields can't stop them because they're not really coming through normal space." Before Vexthak could respond, space around his fleet began to twist. Reality itself seemed to fold and bend. Then, without warning, 300 more human ships appeared directly inside the Zephyrian formation. Admiral Rick Thompson's voice came across all communication channels. "Zephyrian forces, this is Admiral Thompson of the Human Defense Fleet. You have 30 seconds to surrender unconditionally." War Marshal Vexthak snarled. "A few hundred ships think they can defeat us? Destroy them all." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships moved through folded space, appearing and disappearing at will. Their weapons fired faster than Zephyrian computers could track. Every shot found its target. The adaptive armor on human vessels grew stronger with each enemy attack. Some ships were hit hundreds of times but showed no damage at all. Meanwhile, human phase torpedoes continued to detonate inside Zephyrian hulls, bypassing every defense. On the ground, Zephyrian troops had landed on 3 human colonies. They expected to find civilians hiding in buildings. Instead, they found Sergeant Mike Davis and his enhanced infantry units waiting for them. "Contact front," one of Mike's soldiers shouted. The Zephyrians charged forward with their traditional battle roar. Their energy rifles fired continuously as they advanced. The humans simply stood their ground. The enemy weapons struck human combat armor and bounced off harmlessly. The soldiers didn't even flinch. When the Zephyrians got close enough, Mike's unit opened fire. Human weapons seemed to know where their targets would be before they moved. Rounds curved around cover to find alien soldiers. Energy beams split into multiple shots mid-flight, hitting several enemies at once. "Fall back," the Zephyrian ground commander ordered. "Regroup at the landing zone." But there was nowhere to fall back to. Human forces had surrounded the entire landing zone while the aliens were advancing. Soldiers emerged from buildings, from underground tunnels, from positions that should have been impossible to reach. The Zephyrians found themselves trapped in a perfect circle of human firepower. Their weapons couldn't penetrate human armor. Their tactics meant nothing against enemies who seemed to predict every move. Back in space, the battle was already over. Of the 2,000 Zephyrian ships, fewer than 100 remained. They tried to retreat, but human vessels appeared in front of them, no matter which direction they chose. War Marshal Vexthak's flagship was heavily damaged. His bridge crew was dead or dying around him. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "They were weak. They were easy prey." Admiral Thompson's voice came through the damaged communication system. "We were never weak, War Marshal. We were patient. We were hoping you would choose peace. What are you? We're what happens when you threaten the human race. We're what you could have had as allies. Instead, you chose to make us your enemy." The surviving Zephyrian ships limped away from the battle zone. Behind them, human vessels began rescue operations, saving alien crew members from destroyed ships. Even in victory, humanity showed mercy to their enemies. But the message was clear. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for the last time. The being peaceful farmers and traders they thought they knew had revealed themselves as the most advanced military force in known space. War Marshal Vexthak's retreat was being tracked by sensors he couldn't detect. Human forces followed him through space. He thought was empty. The hunt had begun and humanity was very good at hunting. The Zephyrian High Command met in emergency session on their fortress world of Scaros. The circular chamber had witnessed centuries of victory celebrations. Today, it echoed with fear and confusion. "Explain this disaster," Supreme Marshal Corex demanded. His massive form dominated the center of the room. "How did we lose 2,000 ships to a few hundred human vessels?" War Marshal Vexthak stood before the council, his scales pale with shame. "Their technology is beyond anything we've encountered. Their weapons ignore our shields. Their ships appear and disappear at will." "You said the humans were weak." "They were," Vexthak insisted. 50 years ago, their ships barely matched our scouts. Something has changed. They've been hiding their true capabilities." Before the Supreme Marshal could respond, alerts began sounding throughout the fortress. A junior officer ran into the chamber, his breathing rapid with panic. "Supreme Marshal, human ships have appeared in the Kalex system." "Impossible," Corex snarled. "Kalex is 60 light-years from the battle zone. No fleet can travel that distance in 3 days. They're there now, Supreme Marshal. Our garrison is under attack. Captain Steve Morrison commanded the human strike force at Kalex. His ships had arrived through dimensional folds that compressed space-time itself. What should have been a weeks-long journey had taken mere hours. "Status report," Steve called out. 47 Zephyrian ships in the system. They're trying to form a defensive line around the space station. "Negative. We're not here to fight. They're fleet. Target the slave processing centers on the surface. Free the prisoners first." The human ships ignored the Zephyrian fleet entirely. Using their phase technology, they descended through the planet's atmosphere without being detected. Their weapons struck with surgical precision. On the surface, the slave camps that had held thousands of captured beings from dozens of species suddenly found their barriers dropping. Energy fields that had contained prisoners for years simply vanished. "This is Captain Morrison of the Human Liberation Force," his voice echoed across the camp speakers. "You are free. Evacuation transports are en route to your position." Among the freed prisoners was engineer Nancy Clark, who had been captured 6 months earlier during a Zephyrian raid. She looked up to see human transport ships descending from the sky. "Nancy!" She turned to see other humans among the prisoners. "We thought you were dead." "Not dead," Nancy replied grimly. "And apparently, neither is the human fleet. Look at those ships. I've never seen technology like that." The human transports were larger than they appeared from the outside. Using dimensional expansion technology, each ship could carry thousands of passengers in comfortable conditions. Medical teams immediately began treating the freed prisoners. Back in space, the Zephyrian fleet finally decided to engage the human ships. It was a fatal mistake. Captain Morrison's vessels had been waiting for this moment. "All ships, engage defensive positions. Let them come to us." The Zephyrian attack was fierce but pointless. Their weapons struck human adaptive armor and only made it stronger. Meanwhile, human return fire devastated the alien fleet. Within an hour, the space around Kalex was littered with destroyed Zephyrian ships. But this was only one system among many. Across Zephyrian space, human forces were appearing everywhere at once. They moved through dimensions that alien science couldn't detect or understand. Commander Jack Lee led deep space reconnaissance units that tracked every fleeing Zephyrian ship. His sensors could detect quantum signatures across multiple star systems. Nothing escaped human notice. "Contact," his sensor officer reported. "Zephyrian heavy cruiser, attempting to reach the Vorlac system. Intercept course. Don't let them warn the garrison there. Jack's ship folded space around itself and appeared directly in front of the fleeing cruiser. The Zephyrian captain tried to change course, but human tractor beams held his ship in place. Zephyrian vessel, this is Commander Lee. Surrender now, and your crew will be treated well. We will never surrender to mammals. Your choice. A single-phase torpedo ended the engagement. The human ship collected the escape pods and continued its patrol. Every Zephyrian survivor would be questioned, and their intelligence would help locate more targets. On the fortress world of Thanek, the Zephyrian garrison had been preparing for siege warfare. They had massive underground bunkers, planetary, defense systems, and a full army division. None of it mattered when human forces simply appeared inside their command center. "Good morning," Colonel Sarah Price said politely to the shocked Zephyrian commanders. Her soldiers had materialized through dimensional gates that bypassed every defense. "I'm here to accept your surrender." The Zephyrian general reached for his weapon, but human soldiers moved faster than his eyes could follow. In seconds, he found himself disarmed and surrounded. "How did you get inside our fortress?" "We walked through your walls," Sarah replied calmly. "Your defenses are designed to stop attacks from normal space. We don't use normal space anymore." Similar scenes were playing out across the Zephyrian Empire. Human forces appeared where they shouldn't be able to reach. They struck with precision that seemed impossible. Most importantly, they freed every prison camp and slave colony they found. The other species in the galaxy began to take notice. For generations, they had watched the Zephyrians expand their empire without anyone able to stop them. Now, suddenly, the seemingly unstoppable conquerors were being systematically defeated. On the trading world of Nexus Prime, alien representatives gathered to watch news reports of the human offensive. "How are they doing this?" asked Ambassador Thrill of the Aquatic Federation. 6 months ago, humans were just another peaceful species. Now they're crushing the Zephyrian Empire." "They were never just peaceful," replied Elder Wisdom Singer of the Crystalline Collective. "My people have long memories. We remember when humans first reached the stars. There was something different about them even then." "Different how?" "They were the only species we ever met who prepared for war while hoping for peace. Every other race either conquers or gets conquered. Humans did neither. They waited. Waited for what? For someone to make the mistake the Zephyrians just made. Back on Scaros, Supreme Marshal Corex received report after report of defeat. 17. Systems had fallen to human forces in just 5 days. Thousands of ships had been destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of prisoners had been freed. "How many fleets do they have?" he demanded. "We don't know, Supreme Marshal. They appear to have unlimited ships and unlimited reach. Our scouts cannot find their staging areas or supply lines. Then we fall back to the core worlds. Concentrate all remaining forces for a final defense." War Marshal Vexthak spoke quietly. "Supreme Marshal, I recommend we consider surrender terms." "Never. The Zephyrian Empire does not surrender." But across their territory, individual commanders were already laying down their arms. The human forces offered generous terms to those who surrendered willingly. They provided medical care, food, and safe passage home. It was becoming clear to everyone that humanity wasn't interested in conquest or revenge. They were methodically dismantling the Zephyrian war machine while freeing its victims. The hunters had become the hunted, and the hunt was nearly over. Zephyria Prime had never been attacked in its 3,000-year history. The capital world of the Zephyrian Empire was defended by the largest space station in the galaxy, surrounded by orbital defense platforms that could destroy entire fleets. 1 million ships from across the Empire had gathered here for the final battle. Supreme Marshal Corex stood in the command center of the great space station, watching his screens show the approaching human fleet. "How many ships do they have?" "Long-range sensors detect approximately 50,000 vessels, Supreme Marshal." Corex felt a moment of satisfaction. 50,000 against 1 million. Even with their advanced technology, they cannot overcome such odds. War Marshal Vexthak wasn't so confident. Supreme Marshal, perhaps we should consider opening communication channels. They might accept our surrender. Surrender? Corex's voice filled with rage. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered half the galaxy. We do not surrender to mammals. On the surface of Zephyria Prime, billions of civilians watched the sky with growing fear. They had been told their fleet was invincible, but recent news from the outer worlds told a different story. In the approaching human fleet, Admiral Rick Thompson stood on the bridge of his flagship. The screens around him showed the massive Zephyrian defenses. Any conventional attack would result in enormous casualties on both sides. Admiral, his science officer reported, we're in position for dimensional insertion. Negative, Admiral Thompson replied. We're not going to fight them. Sir. Dr. Brooks, are you ready? Dr. Helen Brooks activated her control console. She had been working on this project for 15 years, waiting for the day they might need it. Gravitational manipulation systems are online, Admiral. Target acquired. On the main screen, Zephyria Prime's moon hung in space like a gray jewel. It was small by galactic standards, but large enough to maintain the planet's tidal systems. Begin destabilization, Admiral Thompson ordered. Dr. Brooks pressed a series of controls. Deep in space, invisible fields reached out toward the moon. The gravitational forces that had held it in orbit for millions of years began to shift. On Zephyria Prime, the first sign was a massive earthquake. Tidal waves struck coastal cities as the moon's gravity fluctuated. In the command center, alarms began sounding. Supreme Marshal, a technician shouted. Something is affecting our moon. The gravity readings are impossible. Corex stared at his displays in disbelief. What are the humans doing? Before anyone could answer, space around the orbital defense station began to shimmer. Without warning, the entire human fleet materialized inside the Zephyrian formation. They had bypassed every defense, every early warning system, every barrier between them and the capital world. Admiral Thompson's voice came across all communication channels. Zephyrian Empire, this is Admiral Thompson of the Human Defense Fleet. You have one opportunity to surrender unconditionally. Supreme Marshal Corex activated the reply channel. This is Supreme Marshal Corex. We will never surrender to inferior mammals. Very well, Admiral Thompson replied calmly. Dr. Brooks, increase destabilization to level 7. On the planet's surface, the effects were immediate and terrifying. The tidal waves grew larger. Earthquakes shook every continent. The moon itself began to visibly change its orbit. In the Zephyrian throne room, Emperor Valdek felt his palace shake around him. His advisors were in panic, but he maintained his composure. He had ruled for 2 centuries and seen many threats to his empire. Your Excellency, his military advisor reported, the humans have somehow appeared in orbit without triggering any of our defenses. Then activate the planetary defense grid. Destroy their fleet. Your Excellency, they're not attacking us. They're doing something to our moon. Before the Emperor could respond, space around the palace began to glow. Dimensional portals opened in the throne room itself. Human soldiers stepped through, led by Admiral Thompson. Your Imperial Majesty, Admiral Thompson said, offering a slight bow. I am Admiral Thompson of the Human Defense Fleet. I believe we need to discuss terms. Emperor Valdek rose from his throne, his full height impressive even by Zephyrian standards. How did you penetrate our defenses? We walked through them, Admiral Thompson replied. Your defenses were designed to stop attacks from normal space. We don't use normal space. In orbit, Dr. Brooks continued her work. The moon's orbit was now visibly unstable. On the planet below, panic was spreading as tidal forces wreaked havoc with weather systems and ocean levels. This is what we can do without firing a single shot, Admiral Thompson explained. "We could destabilize your moon completely. Your planet would become uninhabitable within days. Your entire civilization would end." "You're bluffing, Emperor," Valdek said, but his voice lacked conviction. Admiral Thompson activated a small device. The palace's main screen showed the moon, now clearly visible as it wobbled in its orbit. "Your Excellency, we don't bluff. We're offering you the same choice we offered War Marshal Vexthak 3 weeks ago. Peace or destruction." "You killed our ambassador." "No," Admiral Thompson corrected. "War Marshal Vexthak killed our ambassador. Ambassador Kate Sullivan came here offering friendship and trade. She was murdered for her efforts." Emperor Valdek looked around his throne room. Human soldiers stood at every entrance, having appeared through dimensional portals that his guards couldn't even see. Outside, his million-ship fleet was helplessly surrounded by human vessels that had emerged from folded space. "What are your terms?" he asked quietly. "Complete surrender of all Zephyrian military forces, reparations to every species you've enslaved or attacked, supervised transition to a peaceful government. In exchange, we'll stabilize your moon and withdraw our forces. And if we refuse?" Admiral Thompson pulled out a small badge from his uniform. It was Ambassador Kate Sullivan's diplomatic insignia, stained with her blood. "Then you'll learn why peaceful people make the most dangerous enemies." War Marshal Vexthak, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "Your Excellency, I recommend we accept their terms." "You coward." "No, Your Excellency. I'm a realist. These humans could have destroyed our world already. They choose not to. They could have killed our civilians. They choose not to. They offer mercy we never showed our enemies." Emperor Valdek looked at the screens showing his planet in chaos, his fleet surrounded, his capital occupied by enemies who had appeared from nowhere. "How did you hide such power for so long?" "We didn't hide it," Admiral Thompson replied. "We simply never used it. You saw peaceful traders and farmers and assumed we were weak. You forgot that humans don't just grow gardens. We also know how to salt the earth so nothing will ever grow again." The Emperor's shoulders sagged in defeat. "I surrender." "The Zephyrian Empire surrenders unconditionally." Admiral Thompson nodded. "Dr. Brooks, stabilize the moon. All forces, begin humanitarian operations immediately." On the screens, they could see human ships already descending to help with earthquake relief and tsunami rescue operations. Even in victory, humanity's first priority was saving lives. 6 months later, the former Zephyrian territory had been transformed. Human forces had established the Galactic Protection Service, ensuring that no species would again face the extinction the Zephyrians had planned for others. Former Emperor Valdek, now serving as a regional administrator under human oversight, sat in his reduced office reading reports. Refugee camps had become new settlements. Slave worlds had become free colonies. Trade routes that had carried plunder now carried legitimate commerce. "How are the reparation payments proceeding?" he asked his human liaison, Colonel David Ross. "Ahead of schedule, actually. Your people are adapting well to peaceful commerce. Many former military officers are now working in construction and agriculture. And our former slaves? Forgiveness takes time, but it's happening." The Aquatic. Federation has resumed trade relations. The Crystalline Collective is considering a cultural exchange program. Valdek nodded slowly. "I still don't understand how you kept such military power hidden for so long." Colonel Ross looked out the window at the city below, where humans and Zephyrians worked side by side rebuilding what war had destroyed. "We weren't hiding it. We were hoping we'd never need to use it. We spent centuries learning to be better than our worst impulses. And when we forced you to use it, we discovered that our worst impulses had been getting stronger the whole time we were trying to suppress them. When someone finally pushed us too far, all that contained fury was ready to be unleashed." David looked back at the former emperor. "The galaxy learned something important these past months. Peaceful people aren't weak people. They're strong people who choose to be gentle. But when you threaten the things they care about, when you murder their ambassadors and attack their families, you discover what strength really looks like. Outside the window, children of a dozen different species played together in parks that had once been military barracks. The Zephyrian Empire was gone, replaced by something the galaxy had never seen before, a protective alliance led by beings who preferred peace but were prepared for war. Humanity had awakened from its long sleep. The galaxy was safer for it, but also more aware that some sleeping giants should never be disturbed.